Good Friday morning. Feel Good Friday for at least the people that are here, because Boomer's still not feeling good. He is home again. He's not joining us live via Zoom today, although he may on Monday if he starts feeling a little bit better. Al Duke's out again because of his illness, but great news. No COVID for Al. So as Eddie said, good job. You've got walking pneumonia instead of COVID, but stay home and rest. So he did. So Jerry in for Boomer, CeeLo in for Jerry, Fleegs in for Al this morning on this Feel Good Friday. Is everybody else feeling healthy today?
I do.
I feel great.
So far, so good.
I got some decent sleep last night. Not great sleep, but when I did sleep, I slept, so that's not bad. So I'm glad to see that all of us seem to be okay on this Feel Good Friday. I feel like I have to do the health update when I open the show. I feel like it's like that's what I need to do.
But we're missing people.
To inform the audience of where we are at. But anyway, we got a Met win. We got a really impressive Yankee win. We've got Game 6 of Rangers-Penguins tonight in Pittsburgh, and you got a really embarrassing performance by James Harden and the Sixers last night. Good morning, Jerry. How are you?
Well, good morning. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. I got out on the water yesterday.
You did.
I did. I forgo the nap. Is that what you say? I did not have a nap yesterday.
You didn't nap.
I did not nap. I went right out on the water, and I went to go fish. Did not catch any fish, but it's amazing what that does for my mental well-being. Just being outside and doing something. Even though it was 64 degrees, cloudy, and windy, the fact that I was outside doing something just lifted my spirits.
Well, that's why I always say people that live in areas like Seattle where it rains a ton.
Oh, God.
Or just, and I know Eddie likes the mountain-like living, but, like, it's cold and it can be dark. It's just, ugh. I know it wasn't sunny where you are. Where I was yesterday, it was gorgeous. It was 75. It was sunny. At times, there wasn't a cloud in the sky. And people are out. People are doing things. And it's a good feel to it.
Yeah, it got nice at night. The sun came out, and I was sitting out on the porch. I said, this is it. This is living. We're almost there, man.
Almost.
We're almost there. And then, of course, signs of summer with baseball humming the way that it is. And I know that it's a long season, and there's a lot of times that we're just going to say in a long season the same things about certain teams. But, right now it's been repetitive in a good way with both of these teams, the Mets and Yankees, but especially the Yankees with another impressive victory. I mean, they are just a behemoth right now. And I don't know. I mean, every one of these teams hits some sort of swoon, and I think people are expecting that with the Mets in June with their schedule and their history. But right now, the Yankees could not be more impressive. I mean, there's really nothing about them. Even with Luis Gil last night on the mound, and they're thinking, all right, we got to piece it together, and our rotation's been great, but we need a spot start from this guy. I mean, it didn't matter. I mean, tie the game up 7-7, and then after that, in that eighth inning, just blow the doors off the White Sox. Home runs. They've been consistently hitting home runs. I mean, they are, at this point in the season, they are scary good. And, God, I hope it continues for both of these teams. I really do, because if we're sitting in October with both of them playing, well, that's going to be a tremendous thing for this city. And right now I've been given no reason to believe that either one of them are going to completely fall off the face of the earth. Just got to stay healthy, keep it rolling. But the Yankees last night against the White Sox, I mean, that was a flex your muscles, in your face, knock a guy down, stand over him, and taunt him type of win.
Well, and that's why when they do lose in the playoffs, you're almost surprised about it, because every year they're good. Every year they've got a great lineup. And I know the whole narrative about, hitting too many home runs and the offense then betrays them in the postseason.
Last year you never felt like they were a great team.
No, but they've always had really good players, and that's kind of my point. Like, you look at last night, and by the way, it was 90 degrees in Chicago last night.
When I heard that on the broadcast, I was like, what?
Nuts, yeah. But when you look at them up and down the lineup, there are a couple of light hitters there. There's no question. But to think that this team, and it will happen, will go into a complete team offensive funk, I don't think that you can expect it for long. It'll happen for a stretch here, a stretch there, but they're too deep. You look at last night, you get the early offense from Stanton. You get Rizzo coming through at times. You had Donaldson late capping it with the home run. You had Judge hitting just a monster shot. The base running by Gleyber Torres on an infield ground ball where he scores from second. You don't see things like that. There's so much talent on this team. that if the pitching remains, and last night the pitching wasn't great, and they blow the lead, but they come back 2 out, nobody. I mean, think about this. There's nobody on base. There's 2 out, and the White Sox bullpen walk.
Yep.
Judge the ground ball. They score 2 runs on that, which is unbelievable. And now, all of a sudden, with 2 outs, you end up with a 7-run rally. It's just, you look at them, it's like, I would say, when you look up and down their lineup, where are the easy outs coming from? And, yeah, there might be a couple here and there, but for the most part, when you go one, and Gallo might strike out a lot, I get it, but he's also a home run threat all the time. There's just not many easy outs in that lineup.
Yeah, I mean, generally you would say the catcher would be one,
Sure.
whoever it is, Trevino or Higashioka. I mean, Connor Falefa has been hot and cold, but he's not a guy that you're necessarily afraid of. And Gallo, I mean, who can go into long funks. But what you've seen so far, and the difference, I think, between this Yankee team this year, at least from the lineup standpoint, and the last couple of years, is you haven't seen those long, prolonged skids offensively from the guys that you count on the most, meaning Judge, Stanton, and Gleyber Torres, for that matter, too. I mean, those 3 guys have just been spectacular. And I understand that, Gleyber is not in the lineup every day, and there's been some mixing and matching there. But it's almost like he's been benefiting from it, and the team has been doing really well. So I don't necessarily know that I would mess with a formula that is working out the way that it is.
Yeah, and he had a good at-bat last night, too. In the midst of that 7-run rally, he was the second batter in the inning, I believe, and he's down 0-2 in the count. And he winds up working out a walk, and he ends up scoring, as I say, on the ground ball by Judge. I think the 2 pieces that I look at in this lineup, why it's different, and I know they were here last year, but Rizzo and LeMahieu,
yeah,
they're just, when they come up, you're just looking for the base hit, and they can spray the ball to all parts of the field, as opposed to when Judge is a great hitter, but when Judge comes up, you look at his size, it looks like he's holding a cue stick in his hand. He's so big. And Stanton, the same thing. It looks like he's got that toothpick, too. You're looking for them to mash the ball. You got guys like LeMahieu and Rizzo. They're just baseball players. And then maybe that's what they've been missing for years and years. I don't know. To me, it seems like a well-balanced offensive lineup right now. And with the way, aside from last night, with the way they've pitched, they are going to win a lot of games this year, as they already have.
Yeah, LeMahieu wasn't really himself last year. He never got back to that machine that he was the first year he was here. Every time he came up, you figured it didn't matter the situation. 2 strikes, 2 outs, didn't matter. He was going to get a base hit. He was going to find a way to get a base hit, and that's what we learned to expect from him. And then you had the COVID year, and then last year, not as much, and then he seems to be getting back to that now. So, I mean, it's been, even when the Yankees have won the last couple of years, I mean, 2017 was a different story. That team was a lot of fun.
That was a World Series type of team, for sure.
That team was a lot of fun. But 18, 19, 20, 21, even when they were good, the only times that they were exciting was basically when guys were hurt and the other guys came up out of nowhere and carried the team for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
That was the only time that they were exciting. Right now, this team is very, very exciting.
Well, and that's been the one criticism I know you and I have had, too, for the last few years. They've been boring to watch because without the home run, they don't do a whole hell of a lot. This has been different because even last night, they hit home runs last night for sure, but in the middle of all those home runs was offense. There was moving runners across. There was the base running smarts that I talk about and I forget who the first baseman was for Chicago, but when Judge, first of all, legs out the ground ball, so you give him credit for that, for hustling, because remember, there's 2 outs. He gets thrown out. That inning's over. He legs out that infield single, which turns out to be a 2-run infield single. The first baseman is stunned that Torres, who is, I think it was Paul O'Neill says, Torres never stopped.
Yeah.
Like it was like slow roller. They're going to try and make the play at first. I'm scoring. And it wasn't even a close play at the plate. So it's little things like that make you go from boring to, damn, this seems kind of exciting. What are they going to do next? And last night I thought was a pretty good example of it.
And there was someone who was on the line yesterday. We didn't end up getting to him because we moved on to other stuff and the show ended. But it said, why was I surprised that the Yankees are playing this way early on? The answer to that is that I thought they had a miserable offseason and they didn't do enough to change the core of the team that I thought was flawed. That's really what the answer was. I didn't think that their rotation was going to be good enough. And quite frankly, I didn't think that they did enough to really change this group. So I thought that they were going to come back, same manager, same sort of attitude, same sort of everything. And the first week or two, that's sort of what they were.
Yeah.
But it's completely different now. So it is surprising to me. I mean, I really thought what we were going to get was another Yankee team that, you had a little bit of agita thinking if they were going to make the playoffs or not, but they would, and then they would go down to a better team because that's what their history had been. I mean, that's and that still may happen this year, but right now it doesn't feel that way.
Well, think about how we felt when they lost 2 out of 3 in Baltimore.
Yeah, it's like, here we go. This is the same crap as last year when they couldn't beat the Baltimore Orioles.
Right, where every other team was feasting on them. And now this year, they're beating everybody. And I will look to, you can talk about the bad teams they played. They've done that, sure, and they've handled them. But the way they've handled Toronto, that to me has been everything in terms of how they have jump-started what was a slow start to the season. And they have just been, unbelievable. 23-8 in 31 games.
I know.
I mean, that's a pace, dare I say, that's a 1998 pace. I'm not comparing them to them yet. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, when you win that many games, man, you win 23 out of every 31, you are on pace for a lot.
Just because it's fun to do.
Yeah.
I want to now see what the 1998 New York Yankees were
after 31 games.
After 31 games,
maybe something if they were 23. I don't remember that season getting off to a great start.
Yeah,
either.
I don't think that it did. Now that you mention that, I think you're right. I think they didn't get off to a great start, and then they ended up just going on a ridiculous run. Now they won 114 games.
Right, they went 125 with the playoffs.
Yeah, so after 24-7 after 31 games.
That's pretty close.
Yeah.
Now, did they stumble out of in the first weekend or something?
They were 0-3.
That's what it was.
Then 1-4. Then
so a bad first week, and then see ya.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And then they ended up winning 7 in a row, and then another 13 out of 14.
And the Yankees won 10 in a row here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That really got them off and running.
Yeah, I mean, that team is always like the one that you look back on. And they had won a championship in 96.
Sure.
Went back to the playoffs in 97. I mean, they were obviously a juggernaut at this point, where this Yankee team has been disappointing the last couple of years. But they were 114-40.
But it's so interesting. If you look at that team, that lineup-wise, 98 compared to this lineup, you've got, and I'll just mention 4 guys. You've got Judge, we know what he is.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Stanton, we know what he is. You've got LeMahieu, who was a batting champ before he came here, so we know how good he is. And you've got I just think Rizzo is just a damn good baseball player.
Yeah.
Just those 4, before I say anybody else, that's a pretty good 4 comparative to what I'm sure the top 4 in the Yankees was in 98.
Yeah, it's really just the consistency of Judge and Stanton. Those are the things.
Definitely.
And it's not only when they're healthy, it's also keeping them healthy. I mean, that is a big part of it, because those guys they can smack an 0 for 23 on you at any point.
And start striking out left and right.
15 strikeouts.
Yes.
That's the problem.
But that hasn't been the case so far this year. The 2 of them have been relatively consistent. Judge struggled a little bit in the beginning, and we were talking about the contract and all that. But he has been awesome ever since. And Stanton's been pretty consistent this year.
He has been. I mean, something happened, after that postseason for him, or during that postseason, where he was tremendous. And that was it. It really hasn't turned back. I mean, he is not, he's struggled so much with injuries, and then big spots. He was terrible. And I remember it was like every time you get 2 strikes on him, first of all, he looked like he was standing outside of the batter's box. And every time he got 2 strikes on him, it was like, breaking ball, low and away, and he'd swing over the top of it.
I remember you going off on him one morning for basically not recognizing what they're throwing you every single time and then falling for it every time.
I mean, it's infuriating for a guy of that caliber and someone who makes that much money. But, I mean, he has made his adjustments, and he is a big part of this team that is, the best team in baseball right now.
No, they are. And, the Mets are 22-11, and right now, as I said to CeeLo before, they'd be a couple of games out. They'd be what?
Yeah.
They'd be 3 games out or 2.5, something like that?
I think it's 2.5,
yeah. And 22-11, that's no small feat either through the first 33 games.
Oh, man. Imagine best record in the American League, best record in the National League, juggernauts on a collision course.
Who would have thunk it here in New York, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know that both teams had expectations, but the way that we have seen all local teams fail on epic levels over the last couple of years, yeah.
I'm trying to think. So I know the Brewers are really good. So the Brewers are 20-12, and the Dodgers 20-10. So percentage-wise, they're even with L.A., but they've got the 2 more wins. So, yeah, I mean, you can certainly make the case. Best record, best team in the American League, best team in the National League here in New York.
I'm going to do another thing that's ridiculous.
Uh-oh.
1986 Mets after...
Oh, gosh. Well, they got off to a bad start, too. Remember that first
did.
weekend? I remember the video, the highlight video or the season recap video.
Yeah. The season to remember or whatever it was, yeah.
And that got off to a shaky start. And then I think they had a winning streak, too. That kind of catapulted them.
All right, let's see. Schedule and results.
I don't think they got swept. Maybe they lost 2 out of 3 the first weekend. I forget.
And I think they went 108-54.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did. No, they actually, well, they started off, let's see, after 31 games, they 22-9. So right there. So there you go. There, if you want to really believe with both of these teams, we went back
They're pretty close
to reference points of the best teams in respect that we can remember of both these franchises, the 98 Yanks and the 86 Mets.
Glory days.
The glory, and both of them were pretty damn good after 31 games.
And very comparable record-wise to where they are right now.
Yeah. I mean, both teams were slightly better, the championship teams, but right there. So, I mean, maybe
Right
that
there.
is enough of
You never know.
Sample size, right?
Mets right now with a 6.5 game lead, and the Yankees right now with a 4.5 game lead. It's going to be harder for the Yankees than the Mets if, in fact, the Phillies continue to throw up on themselves.
Exactly.
And then you have a division where the Braves just haven't found it yet. So who knows? We'll see.
All right, Boomer and Gio on the Fan and CBS Sports Network.